At the conference in Casablanca, Churchill and Roosevelt also agreed to step up their air raids on German cities. Henceforth, the British flew at night and the Americans by day. Under the command of Air Marshal Arthur Harris, even residential areas were exposed to morale bombing, as the British called it. But the US Air Force restricted its attacks to targets of military importance, such as submarine pens, armament factories, and German infrastructure. Hollywood director William Wyler was commissioned to document these dangerous operations. He was determined to fly on some of the missions himself and take pictures. On February the 26th, 1943, Wyler and his team filmed the crews of the 91st Bomb Group being informed at daybreak that their next target would be the naval base at Wilhelmshaven. The Americans were stationed at Bassingbourn Airfield near Cambridge. They had to cross the channel 25 times before they were allowed to go back home. Accordingly, Wyler's film was to be entitled 25 Missions.
The girlfriend of US pilot Robert Morgan had christened his bomber the Memphis Belle. Later, the B17 Flying Fortress lent its name to one of the most successful films on the Second World War. In a radio interview, William Wyler was asked how he had experienced the operations over France and Germany.
Fear. Simple, honest fear. You're afraid of being killed. It's a feeling you've never had until you've been shot at. But there's an even more powerful feeling that really helps. When you look around and see the sky full of flying fortresses, and then look down at the enemy coastline, you'd rather be where you are than down below.
Wyler and the cameramen on board other aircraft had to work under the most difficult conditions. Above all, they had a real problem with the bitter cold at an altitude of more than 10,000 meters.
If you wanted to change the film, you had to take off your glove. But if you took it off for more than 1 or 2 minutes, you would lose some fingers from frostbite. Being on oxygen, your efficiency was at a minimum. Taking 3 steps was like walking a mile.
So far, there was no sign of enemy fighters, but then came the flak. William Wyler.
The flak was terrific. We'd fly through entire belts of it. The blue sky looked like a punctured sieve.
One of the cameramen was killed when his plane was brought down. In a letter, Wyler wrote,
I saw so many who never came back, but it makes a difference when it's one of my own people, someone I recruited myself and sent off on a mission.
William Wyler filmed spectacular scenes of German fighters attacking the bombers. Finally, the big moment. The bomb aimer focuses on his target. Wilhelmshaven is now defenseless.
Later, Wyler constructed his picture as if these scenes had been filmed from the Memphis Belle. But on this particular day, in fact, the B-17 wasn't even in the air.
In the night of the 27th and 28th of July 1943, the British Royal Air Force attacked Hamburg. The bombs created a horrific firestorm, which raged for 5 hours in the workers' suburbs in the east of the city. The next day, fireman Hans Brunswick took these pictures of the firefighting operations. 24 hours after the raid, some of the fires were still burning. Around 150,000 people were left homeless. Hamburg author Hans-Erich Nossack wrote,
"Nothing around us bore any resemblance to what we had lost. It was something totally different, something alien, something that could not actually be possible. But why document all this? Would it not be better for it to be forgotten for all time?"
In all, Operation Gomorrah, the military name for the bombing raids on Hamburg, claimed around 34,000 lives. Barely half the victims could be identified. People now fled from the devastated city in droves, homeless, desperate and terrified. An assembly centre was set up in Hamburg's Moorweide Park. The actual aim of the bombing campaign was to break German morale, but that was something the Allies never achieved.